Admittedly, while I was aware of the controversy pertaining to some of Reverend Wright's sermons, I had not felt compelled to research the accusations against him. After all, how many sermons from any of the pastors of the other presidential candidates have been so closely scrutinized? Though presidential candidate John McCain was criticized for his endorsement by the Reverend John Hagee, I doubt that McCain ever considered Hagee as a personal friend and pastor. Then again, Wright has fueled the controversy through recent interviews with the press. Could it be that Wright, like the Reverends Falwell and Robertson, and possibly even Reverend Maiden, is prone to hyperbole? Nevertheless, what is it about Wright's words that have troubled so deeply a divided nation? After speaking with one of our members last week, I was left wondering, had Wright cursed his country? And if so, why? Actually, even before I searched the internet for more information, I thought of my father. Let me say that I am a son of a partisan household. There was no question about who my father supported and who he did not. Nevertheless, irrespective of who was in the White House, he remained deeply patriotic. I remember my father saying, as he drove me to college one fall, that there was only one thing that I could have done to disappoint him. Like all young men graduating from high school, my father felt it was my responsibility to sign up for the selective service, or the draft, as it was known during the Vietnam War. My father was not disappointed. Yet I also remember watching the evening news with my family while I was yet a child to see if my oldest brother Joe would be drafted into the Army. My father would undoubtedly have wanted my brother to serve, but I could also conceive my father cursing his country should his son be lost in a war when the purpose no longer seemed clear. Indeed, I wouldn't be surprised if my father had cursed God when my brother died from complications from surgery. My father was passionate about God and country, but as I discovered over the years, he was even more passionate about his family. I never found a transcript of Wright's sermon, but I did find a reference to a sermon from 2003 in which he did indeed curse his country. Though only a few words were quoted, I now have a better sense of the context in which Wright spoke. As drug use grows increasingly prevalent, as violence and poverty continues to shape the inner cities, when 100,000 children are lost to gunfire, when the law prosecutes the possession of some forms of crack cocaine more aggressively than others, when so many black men seem to be caught in a cradle-to-prison pipeline, I can understand why a black minister would be distraught, angered that his country had simply done little to address this growing crisis, seemingly have turned away from his people. We may not agree with the reasons for his anger or about the solutions to these problems, but can we at least understand his passion for his people? Wright has also been criticized for blaming the government for AIDS, which has disproportionately affected the black community. Though I disagree with Wright, I am aware that the pursuit of science has been distorted within the context of race. For 40 years, 399 black men were left untreated for syphilis at the Tuskegee Institute. Uninformed of their illness and lacking treatment, 128 died from syphilis-related complications. 40 of their wives had become infected, and 19 of their children had been born with congenital syphilis. My argument with Wright is that HIV/AIDS was initially diagnosed and dismissed as a gay disease rather than a black disease. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. There must be a God somewhere. But when Jesus heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but the sinners." It was after my conversation with Joy and Mimi, we can blame Mimi, that I changed the title of today's sermon to Presumption of Guilt. It's amazing the charges that have been laid upon that lowly tax collector. Some historians and scholars claim that the toll or tax collector was also a cheat, taking more than what was owed for personal profit. Even a parallel passage in Luke, in which a tax collector named Zacchaeus invites Jesus to his home. Zacchaeus offers to give half of his income to the poor, and if he had defrauded anyone, he would be restored fourfold. Is it possible that a timeless distrust of the tax collector, tracing back through history to a mythic first tax, has shaped our perceptions of these less welcome children of God?